Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Big Cozy, Too Cozy from the Highly Advised Podcast. I'm here with your boy, Nigel, a.k.a. Relaxing Jackson. Shouts out to Saint Kitch, a.k.a. Spence, episode 63. We're here in your lives. We're inching closer to episode 70. We've been doing this for a minute. Hey, guys, let the people know who you are once again, and also let us know how your past week went.
Well, first and foremost, who are you to the listeners?
I already said that.
Did you say that?
Yeah, you didn't pay attention.
I must have missed it.
You too much of a... Listen, you're a slick talker. You got to listen a little bit faster, man.
Yeah.
Well, who are you?
I already said it.
Not you.
Yeah.
The other one.
Well, who am I? I'm no one other than, Spence, otherwise known as Saint Kitch. You can follow it on the Instagram, st.kitch, in case you're unsure how to spell it. Other than that, though, with no further introduction, it's me. I'm doing good. I mean, my weekend's been great. Beautiful, blessed weekend, as always. Got to breathe the air again, put my feet on the pavement. Can't get better than that. So, other than that, I can't call it, man. 4th of July was good. Chilled out. Did catch up with some friends that came in town. So, how about yourself, Nigel?
Not so bad. It is Relaxing Nosy _ Jackson. I pretty much didn't, do anything out of the regular, except I did go and see some fireworks yesterday with my niece and nephew and my brother, and that was kind of cool. And other than that, just a normal day. Went to go see some family, but otherwise it was chill.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah. The fireworks part is always like the craziest part of 4th of. No, it's just the craziest time of 4th of July because it's super cool, but at the same time, it's like that. It's that same space where people just go a little off the rails. Like, I don't even know. Did you guys see the video that was going around, the viral video? I guess they were in Chicago, and they were letting off like fireworks, but they were putting in a thing so it was like it was shooting out of something that looked like it will hold a missile, and it's shooting hundreds of feet into the air until it goes off, and it's like you just have so many people that do that during the holiday, which it just kind of gets out of hand sometimes. That's all.
I saw a video with fireworks going off in Ocean City, Maryland.
Yeah.
That looked kind of crazy, and I was just like, oh, it looked like it was a mistake. I put it like that. Like somebody messed up.
Yeah. Listen, I'm quite sure whoever did it, I'm quite sure they're still running if they haven't been caught yet, because I know as soon as it probably was all fun and games at one point, and then once it got like it, they realized like, hey, this is not like a little fire. This thing, because it looked like it was an explosion practically. Like that thing was wild.
People sounded scared too. It was wild.
Yeah, heck, I was walking past somewhere and I saw in a neighborhood where someone had let people were letting fireworks off like in neighborhoods pretty much. And like, I mean, when I say like in neighborhoods, I mean like they're letting them off next to apartment buildings. Like I saw some viral videos on Instagram. You had people like letting off fireworks that just spray everywhere.
Hey, as long as you're being safe, you know what I mean? Like, as long as you're being safe about it.
But this was next to like a probably like a 3-story building.
As long as you're being safe.
3-story apartment building.
As long as you're being safe. You know what I mean? Look, no, I like fireworks. I like watching fireworks. I like seeing those type of fireworks, and I like seeing fireworks in the octagon like we're going to see next weekend, or I guess this weekend for the listeners. UFC 264 is this weekend in a few days. We are here to talk about it. This is probably the mega fight of the summer. It could possibly be the biggest fight of the year. We have Conor McGregor and Dustin Porier in the main event. Lyle, what are your thoughts?
So here we go. Fun fight card. It's a little reminiscent of the old school UFC cards where a title fight doesn't have to be the main event, which is cool. Porier McGregor 3, the trilogy. I think it's definitely a fight that was created out of money, but also most importantly, because Conor demanded it, and Dana, fell to the demands as usual. So this is how I see this fight is going to go. I think the build-up is going to be more exciting than the fight itself. I am choosing Porier to beat Conor. I think Conor, it's done for him. I just think that last fight really showed, like, hey, this guy made so much money that he doesn't have the heart, he doesn't have the will and the determination to fight at the pinnacle of mixed martial arts anymore. He's only in there to get a 7 to 8 figure payday. And I was reading reports that he only took Dustin Poirier the last fight as a tune-up in back in January as a tune-up fight. So this way he could get ready for a big boxing bout with Manny Pacquiao. And when I read that,
that's wild.
Actually, his homeboy Artem Lobov was saying that as well. I forgot where he was being interviewed at, but you could go online right now and you could read that. But if that's really, really true, it just goes to show, like, he wasn't taking Poirier seriously. He probably thought, like, hey, I'm going to knock him out, then go fight Manny Pacquiao and make another $100 million, and then probably ride off in the sunset. That was probably his ultimate goal. But now he's big money trilogy fight with Porier, which I don't think he's going to win. And once he loses, I think the Conor McGregor show the movie will finally be over. I don't hate Conor. I'm a Conor fan, actually. I want Conor to win. I'm not going to lie.
Right.
I do. I want him to win. I would like to see one more ride with Mystic Mac, but it's just he's going to get somebody that's just too damn good, and it's not going to fall for the shit that he fell for, 7 years ago, 6-7 years ago when Conor knocked him out. So I look at it as like, hopefully Conor, he shows up in this last fight, but Poirier is going to go ahead and do him in again. I have second round TKO or submission, because you don't know. Poirier might switch it up, take his ass to the ground, I'll wrestle him, choke his ass to sleep.
Nah, that's true. I don't know if you saw, but even Poirier, because Poirier and Conor were having a back and forth through social media, and I know Conor was saying something about, like, oh, the first person to throw a shot is pretty much like a punk. And Poirier was like, how about this? The first person to get taken down is a punk, if anything. He's like, it's mixed martial arts.
Right.
We're using everything. So, I mean, you have a valid point there where he may end up just switching it all up on Conor at this point. I do agree with what you said when it comes to Conor. Like, at this point, if he loses to Poirier, I think it's kind of over at this point. He'll probably just have the Nate Diaz fight one last time, that trilogy, and that'll be it. He'll ride off into the sunset with all his millions. I don't see Conor really getting to a space where he can actually fulfill, like, the duty of, like, hey, I changed everything that's necessary to fight this guy, knowing that with the information that you said, that he didn't even take him serious the second time they fought. I think Conor at this point, hopefully, because I would love to see him win. As a Conor fan, we all have been there we rode the roller coaster with Conor from the beginning all the way up to this point. So I think we all want to see Conor win this thing, but at the same time, it seems like the way Conor is approaching the game and the way he's approaching fighting itself, and even the way he's talking to his opponent, when we all know the reality is Conor hasn't won a fight in a few years, I believe. Yeah, a couple of years. It's been a couple of years since he's won.
He did smoke out. Yeah, I was going to say, he did smoke out Cerrone last year.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But outside, I think it's outside of Cerrone. After Cerrone, I think it had been like 2 years since he won a fight prior to then.
Oh, no, it definitely gets shaky before that. Don't get me wrong, but...
Yeah, like the Cerrone, and like even then, like... And I can't take nothing against Conor for that, because he did his job. He did what he's supposed to do. Like,
right.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that Conor can win and show us something different. But the reality is, at this point, I'll probably have Conor losing this. losing this fight. I probably have him losing in the third round. I kind of would agree with Khabib. What Khabib said, where it's like if it's in the first round, Conor has a chance in the first round. After the first round, I give it all to Poirier. I do see it probably going as a knockout, if anything, because I do believe Conor gets gassed pretty easily in the second or third round. So
I just think that with Conor, the game plan, I hope the game plan from his camp is it like, hey, let's check leg kicks this time. Because I feel like that's a terrible game plan just to focus on. Like Poirier and his camp, they're obviously going to be smart enough to be like, hey, we're not just focused on leg kicks. That's what took you out the last time. This time we got a new game plan. So hopefully Conor and his camp, they focus on more things. Hopefully they focus on the grappling. And hopefully the striking, they abandon the whole 100% boxing thing. And hopefully Conor, he does his karate stance shit and he's able to move away in and out the pocket, something. And I just hope that the game plan coming from Conor isn't just a one-lane game. Like, hey, we just got to check leg kicks and we're good. Like, no, Poirier isn't just a one-trick pony type of fighter.
I think because of the way the first fight played out, I think Conor McGregor's camp is probably trying to say, hey, we can't let Dustin get comfortable in there, because when he did, he started to kind of control the fight, hitting Conor a little bit more, got him out of there. So I think what this fight will be is probably a more fast-paced version of the last fight where Conor tries to show his dominance very early in the fight, and then Dustin Poirier might have to survive some type of storm, because if we're being real, like Dustin Poirier, he does get hit sometimes, and that's the only reason why in this fight I think Conor McGregor has a chance, because he strikes hard and he strikes fast. So does he have a chance to win in the first? Yes. I think anything past that, Dustin Poirier takes, because I just don't see him weathering a storm with Dustin Poirier. Conor McGregor gasses, we all know it. That's like his kryptonite. So, when he gets deeper in a fight like that, Dustin Poirier is going to take him out, whether it's taking him to the ground and submitting him, or whether just being good enough on the feet to take him out, similar to what he did last time. I got Dustin Poirier taking it. I hope he wins, honestly, just because I'm ready for lightweight to move forward. And I think if Conor fights, who knows if it's boxing or MMA for him next, and then it's going to be a whole thing. Dustin Poirier is going to go straight to a title fight. We can move on in the division. That's what I want to see.
Nah, I can definitely respect that, because when you put it that way, I do think if Conor wins, it does hold up the division even more, because even like Lau said in previous episodes, we all know that Dana always answers. He always picks up the phone when Conor calls. And the only way for that to really kind of change is if Conor doesn't win, unfortunately. I mean, it sucks that has to be the reason for it. But at this point, I think the division is kind of tired of anything that's Conor related. And we kind of just, no, not tired of anything Conor related, but I think in terms of fighters, in terms of matchmaking, I think it's just better for the sport at the end of the day.
Exactly.
So I do agree there.
Nothing against the dude. You know what I mean? Conor McGregor's a talented fighter, but I just know what comes with the win from Conor. So because of that, I just rather see it go the other way.
Now, if Conor was saying hey, if I won this fight and then I wanted to fight Michael Chandler next, right? Or whoever, someone else in the division, then I think there wouldn't be a problem with it. But I think it's just knowing, like you said, even like Lau said, he took Poirier as a fight to get ready for Manny Pacquiao, and he got knocked out.
Yeah,
I just don't know what to say about that, man. That really blows my mind.
And then blamed it on ring rust the whole time after he lost the fight.
Yeah, I think with Conor, he's always thinking about the bigger picture.
Yeah,
I know all three of us are going to be tuning in to the fight just to see what happens in the main event. But the co-main event has an interesting fight as well, with Gilbert Burns, who's coming off a loss against Usman, the current pound-for-pound #1 fighter. And he's fighting Stephen Thompson, who's also a top 10 welterweight, but he's never fought Kamaru Usman. Actually, the only top 10 welterweight that Usman's never even came across. So I think this is an interesting fight. If Stephen Thompson wins this fight, now you're talking about should he get the shot over Leon, this, that, and the other. But if he loses, I don't of course, it's going to still be Leon or Kobe. I'm picking Gilbert Burns actually to win by knockout. And
That's interesting.
well, here's the thing. Well, Gilbert Burns lost to Usman. He lost to Usman's jab. But at the same time, what some people are forgetting is Usman has phenomenal grappling. He's a great wrestler. Stephen Thompson is not a good wrestler at all. And he doesn't shy away from letting people know that. But he also works on his takedown defense to get away from wrestling. I don't think he will be able to pick and move with somebody like Gilbert Burns, who can grapple extremely well, but also has some decent striking with immense knockout power. He has like flash KOs. So remember when he dropped Usman, it woke Usman up kind of like, oh, I got to get on the horse right away. So I just don't see Wonder Boy taking too many shots because he's another guy that also gets hit. He doesn't move his head. He gets hit. If you watch that Jeff Neal fight he had, Jeff Neal was hitting him. Obviously, it was kind of like an experience factor. He was getting frustrated with Wonder Boy's, striking. I just don't see Gilbert Burns dealing with that same issue, especially he's a guy that can walk forward and trap people. So I got Gilbert Burns. I'm not saying this is going to be easy night out because Wonder Boy Thompson, he's not top 10 as long as he is for no reason. I just don't think that he's going to be able to stick and move and use his point striking to win this fight.
I mean, I can understand that. Like, when you put it that way, it makes a lot of sense. I do have Burns winning that fight as well. I think with a lot of the points that you have, I do think it's going to be hard for Thompson. I mean, it would be. I will say this: I think it would be great if Thompson would win, so Usman can get that one as well off his belt. Because I mean, they're as long as they never run across each other, especially while Usman has the belt, it'll be something that Thompson will hold on to, especially when he's trying to climb his way up to the belt at some point. I don't think he deserves it in front of Leon, though, even if he were to win it.
I agree.
I think we all understand of the sport and how the sport is changing somewhat. So if it were to happen, I wouldn't be surprised, unfortunately. But yeah, I do have Burns winning this. I think, just like you said, his performance against Usman was a good performance against Usman, and you're going against the number one guy in the world at this point. So it's like to take that and saying like, okay, you had a competitive fight with this man, and then you're going against Thompson. It makes totally sense, so much more sense to go with Burns.
I have Burns, but I have him by second round submission. I think that he will be able to catch Wonder Boy, but at the same point in time, I just see him catching him, but then just locking him up on the ground and putting him away. Just because I feel like where he shines at in this fight definitely is on the ground. And if I had to say there's more of a chance of him finishing it one way than the other, I'd say it would be submission in this fight, specifically because that's just something that Wonder Boy isn't very good at, That being said, though, I'm looking forward to the fight. I think it's going to be really interesting. And I think it's good for the welterweight division because that's two contenders that are trying to make their way back up the ladder.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
Even though that we have Burns to Thompson and obviously the main event, Conor and Porier, there's one more highlight fight that people are talking about, but I don't know if it's for a good reason. Sean O'Malley versus a promotional newcomer, and please forgive me for mispronouncing the gentleman's last name, but it's Kris Moutinho. And once again, I apologize for ruining the guy's last name. But he's definitely never fought in the UFC before. He's fought in, local, regional, lesser promotions. And for some reason, Sean O'Malley had all these bantamweights calling him out that fought in the UFC already. And for some reason, the UFC went ahead and signed a guy who's being brought in to do the job. So I look at it as like Sean O'Malley is becoming a glorified can crusher, kind of like somebody else we know in Bellator. I expect for him to knock this guy out in the first or second round, just because it's not even a competition. If Sean O'Malley doesn't put this guy away fast, I think it just goes to show, hey, he's not going to last in the top 5 of bantamweights.
I blame Sean O'Malley for this, man. Only because, like, if I was him, I'd be like, hey, look, like, I can fight somebody else in the division. You know what I mean? And it's weird because, like, this guy, I'm not sure as to how, like, in the organizations he's fought in, like, I can't say I see anybody who's necessarily notable to me. But what I will say is that it's odd because he is, like, it's almost like he's like the negative version of Sean O'Malley. He has like the same tattoo placement on his chest. He also has colorful hair. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of odd that they found somebody.
His opponent?
Yes, his opponent.
I gotta see this.
No, look it up. It's weird. Like, when I saw them, I was like, oh, they took like a carbon copy clone of him and just said, hey, you're gonna fight this guy. Maybe if he beats Sean O'Malley, he can take his place in the UFC. To swap him out.
Who knows? This
what they
might
call
be
it when they did it with Scorpion and Sub-Zero in Mortal Kombat? Palette swaps?
Oh, yeah, palette swaps.
Pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy, man.
Just look at it. You'll see.
Oh, wow.
See?
Yeah.
Same tattoo. Nah. That's kind of... Oh, he dyed his hair. This is weird.
Yeah.
They found him. And that's who he's fighting. I agree with Lau as far as the can crushing as well. He could have fought Dominic for all that.
Either it says a lot on him or it says a lot on the UFC.
Exactly.
Right? And either it says a lot on him where, like you said, he's choosing to pick a lesser than opponent and hoping that it's going to, while also hoping that he can climb up the ranks still, which would make no sense. Or it's the organizations dropped the ball by mismatching him with somebody. And more than likely, unless they're believing like, yo, I think there's hype behind him, let's just bring this new kid in and see what he can do. And I don't even think that's the case. I think they're feeding someone to him. And it's like, it makes no sense. Now, then the sad part is, if O'Malley goes out here and gets knocked out, flushed, I'm not going to say it's all over because he's young. He still has a chance to rebound and have a successful career. But it's like, this is not the right direction you want to have your career go in when you're fighting someone no one's familiar with, no one that's in the top 5. You're like fighting it's pretty much like, as Lau would say, a jobber, someone that, hey, can you get off that ladder real quick? I got a fight for you. If you don't mind, can you fight this dude next week? That's kind of like, that's the feeling that this gives. And
no knock to jobbers, right? Jobbers, they're important to combat sports and stuff like that because, and I know it's going to sound fucked up, but here's why they're important. They're important to help build prospects or people making their debuts or aspiring contenders and future world champions, right? Sean O'Malley, this guy, hey man, you're not a prospect anymore. It's time for you to start fighting top 10 guys. You know, or fighting guys who used to be top 10 and they're solid veterans. You're fighting this guy who was never even thought of being brought in a promotion until I think he was fighting Luis Smoka originally until he fell out. And for Sean to be like, yeah, I'm going to sign a dotted line to fight this. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. Sean, like Nigel said, he could have been like, hey, just get me somebody better. This doesn't look good for me. Like, just get me somebody better. Right. Like, I don't know, man. But if that's the route he wants to take, like I said, it's like somebody else that can't crush us nonstop in Bellator.
Not to name no names. But
yeah.
Speaking of people who fought in Bellator, and this person might have actually fought them if I'm not mistaken, Joe Schilling was in a bar recently and he knocked out somebody that was in there. Now, from what I know of the story, apparently this guy was in there being, I guess, drunk and disorderly, saying things, being not so friendly to the people who were working there. And I guess after some time, Joe Schilling knocked this man out.
Yeah.
Hold on. So, because I didn't have a chance to read the article, but Was this like him just kind of like being on like some vigilante type of thing where it's like, hey, I'm going to take this, I'm gonna stand up for everybody and I'm gonna knock this dude out? Or was there like a discourse that led to this?
I think it was a little bit of both from what everything that I've read.
Okay.
So it was kind of like this guy, this drunk guy, Joe Schilling, they happened to be at the same bar. This guy apparently, he's been doing inappropriate things that are like, hey, the manager should have been kicked this guy out, but for some reason he didn't. Right. So I think Joe Schilling, according to his words, he noticed the guy was saying, the N-bomb, and he was also doing other inappropriate things. So it comes to a point when Joe Schilling's walking past the guy. Apparently, him and Joe Schilling, they're like bump into each other, and that was like Joe Schilling's excuse to knock the guy clean out. And the guy like flinched at him or something like that, and Joe Schilling knocked him clean out. And the guy, he deserved to get his ass whooped or whatever, but Joe Schilling also has to realize, like, yo, man, you're a professional fighter, so like, you should have. If you was going to whip the guy's ass, at least whip his ass when no one is around. But I don't think he's facing something crazy. Apparently, he's just facing a misdemeanor.
Okay.
So he'll be able to live through it. But I'm not mad at Joe Schilling for knocking out an asshole, but, he knew the consequence. I guess, hey, he knew the consequences. So it is what it is.
When you put it that way, I totally understand why, like, what preempted him to actually take that route, right? Definitely when this guy's throwing, like, some dude's drunk throwing out racial slurs, being nasty to the employees. But, like, I do agree with what you said when it comes to with Joe Schilling. Like, at the end of the day, he is a professional fighter. I'm not necessarily mad at what happened and how everything played out, but as a professional fighter, he has this ability that most people don't have, and that's the fact that he can legitimately knock you out probably with one or two punches accurately, knowing what he's trying to do and setting you up, unlike most people who can fight for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, so exactly.
So at the end of the day, the biggest fear would have been like, had this, and we hear about this stuff happening from time to time. Let's say if you're in this bar and let's say I hit this dude and his hit against a chair, right? And now he's like in a coma. Like, and it's not saying it's far-fetched, but just in the terms of definitely with him being a professional fighter. Like, had something happened to this dude, it would have been one thing if it was a regular dude that this happened to, that, oh, he put this dude in a coma, but as a professional fighter, it would just look really bad on him. But luckily it's a misdemeanor charge. I'm quite sure his legal talked to him about it, or at least not even his league, but hopefully like someone sits down and has a conversation with him. Like, hey, I get what you want to do, but this isn't the best approach, and hopefully he just learns from it. So
I'm sure he has good lawyers. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
I think he'll be all right.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if you guys saw, but like Jake Paul and Triller, they donated $30,000 to this UFC fighter. She's 0-1, who recently opened up a GoFundMe, Sarah Alpar. Were you guys familiar about that or her GoFundMe?
So, yeah, I've heard about it. And what I have to say about the situation is this. It's one, I'll say that I'm sure that because off the top of my head, I don't know who she's fought. I don't think I've ever seen any of her fights. She's probably new to the UFC. And that being said, I'm sure her fighter pay is low. And I'm sure she does need money, and I'm sure this $30,000 helps her. That being said, I'm sure that the UFC will not sign her again for a contract. I'm sure she knows the public side of this Triller, Jake Paul, UFC, Dana White situation that's going on. And I'm sure the UFC knows that too. She won't be back. So shouts out to her for getting her money. Shouts out to her to getting her fight. And I hope her future as well.
Hey, I don't know if she's going to get cut. Now, re-sign, that might be a discussion.
Either way.
But she's not going to I don't think she's going to get cut. If Dana obviously seen this, but will he make a comment or retaliate? I don't think so. like Jake Paul and Triller doing this is out the genuine. They're not doing it to be genuine and be like, yes, we worry about. No, they're not doing that. Or they would open up a MMA organization offering better pay. So obviously they're doing this to stick this to Dana. Now, the young lady, Sarah, she came out and said like, hey, I didn't do this GoFundMe to bash the UFC. I just did it because I actually need money.
Right.
So
Right.
so she's not on this whole I need fighter pay to increase or nothing like that. So she's not on that. So that's why I don't think the UFC may cut or going to like go out their way to cut her or set her up in a fight where she could get knocked out brutally or something. I don't think if they do that, then it's like, wow, like how crooked can he be? But good for her for getting the $30,000, and hopefully she puts it to good use to help her with her training and whatever else she needs to handle in her life. But I just didn't think Jake Paul and Triller doing it was out of a genuine cause. It was just more or less of like, see, your fighters don't get paid enough. They have to do GoFundMes. That's all that shit was.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's always a strategy thing at the end of the day. It's always a strategic thing at the end of the day, right? Yeah. Because I definitely agree where that there's no other reason for them to do this, like you said, because if they were serious in terms of like helping fighters get paid, they could always get together. They have enough resources between Triller and Jake Paul and his brother to actually develop a league, if that be the case, right? To actually pay like professional fighters. Like I looked at the GoFundMe. I don't think she did this with like ill intentions towards the UFC, but I do think something. I'm not going to say the UFC is going to punish her for this like directly, but I think she may have maybe a little bit hard of a time as she moves forward, just because I think the UFC is less about her, but I think the UFC just doesn't want all their fighters, their up-and-coming fighters, doing something like this at some point. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think there's nothing wrong with what she did. Definitely if it's like, hey, I want to take this full-time, I just need X amount of money. But the only downside is like, hey, if this doesn't work, what happens then? You know what I'm saying?
Well, my thing is, we've seen the UFC and how they handle business sometimes. And when people, don't have the nicest things or aren't a part of the nicest things, they can be kind of fast to act, is what I'll say.
I think in that regard, I think that's when people have to just fighters have to make a conscious decision on like what is the best way or the most appropriate way when it comes to pay at the end of the day, especially as an athlete. Fortunately, they're getting paid. They're still making money, and I'm quite sure, like, them watching, even keeping up with the news, there's probably a bittersweet moment for them because I'm quite sure they read about the NCAA, where they officially allowed athletes to make money from endorsements, which is crazy when you think about it, because this is something that's been going on for decades. From hearing Chris Webber talk about when he was playing in Michigan and he saw his jersey going on sale for like $100, but he didn't have he had less than like maybe $2 in his pocket. So like, I think this is a huge, huge thing that's happened for the NCAA, especially. You guys have any opinions on it?
Yeah, I'm about damn time. And they knew that, hey, if shit doesn't fucking change, all these basketball players, they're going to end up going to the fucking G League, go to some league over in Europe, somewhere. Some LeVar Ball's junior basketball league that would have taken off. These young athletes, student athletes, they're playing and they're playing broke. There's no way that a kid who comes from the hood, who couldn't provide for himself, and he's going to college because he's hoping to get to the NBA, he's struggling in fucking college. Financially. Family back at home, still struggling and shit. And he sees his jersey being sold for thousands of dollars. His selling out arenas, people there cheering him on, motherfuckers seeing him come into play, and he's not making a dime and a cent. Yeah. Like that, how fucked up is that? So if the colleges don't want to set up a financial salary for these student athletes. That's their choice. Still a little fucked up, but whatever. That's their choice. But let the athletes get money off of endorsements. Imagine if Zion Williamson got a Nike deal while he was playing for Duke. He would have been financially set. I mean, now shouts out to Zion because, he never came out and complained about money or anything like that. But what I'm saying is just like, this helps the kids out. I'm not saying every student athlete is going to be getting endorsement deals because some student athletes are only good enough just to make it to college. They're not good enough to even be looked at to be drafted into the NBA. But the ones that are obviously going to be top 10 draft picks or they're going to be stars in the NBA or whatever, blah, 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 and they're hurting for money and stuff like that, why can't they get endorsement deals? It's because what's going to end up happening is the NCAA, they're going to start losing athletes. These athletes are going to find other means to go somewhere else to make money. Now, for basketball, I think it was mainly a problem for basketball, and it's still going to be a problem for football because in football, there's no other avenue for you to get drafted in the NFL without going to college. And it's been rare when you have like walk-ons. Rare. Usually when they get somebody who's a walk-on, practice squad. Hey man, you're here to get tackled and fucked up. See if the playbook works. And that's it. I mean, you're laughing, but
But I know what you're saying, but they get paid in like NFL. I'll say like riding the bench or like, being on the practice squad, you're making decent money. I'll put it like that.
Yes, you're making decent money, but not everybody's being selected to be in the practice squad. That's what I'm saying.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
And even then though, like that's like once you get to you got to get to that stage. You know what I'm saying? Versus like when you're still in college as a collegiate athlete, like you don't have those financial resources. And I think one of the beauties of this is, as you said, like, hey, now there are athletes, and you hear stories of athletes or people that may have taken a different path in life because they didn't have financial resources, so they couldn't stay at the college. Or like you said, like there are going to be athletes that play on a team that may just be there on like some partial of a scholarship, or they may be a walk-on onto a college team, and they may be good, but at the same time they still have to cover tuition, and maybe the tuition isn't fully covered. In those cases, you can have an endorsement deal that you may be able to actually factor that in, because even though I do believe like you have athletes like someone like Master P's son, for instance, Hercy Miller. He hasn't even started. He's going to go to Tennessee State University, I believe, which is a HBCU, where he hasn't even started playing yet. But he's gotten from a tech company, he got a $2 million deal for 4 years. So that means $500,000 every year of college for him in this case, right? So I think when you have like every athlete's not going to get that deal, but you'll have some kid that may get some type of time every so often, some burn on the court or whatever. And he may be one of those players that may be there for 4 years. I'm quite sure that there'll be a certain class, maybe Class C, is like, hey, we want to give you an endorsement deal for $30,000 for a year. To play basketball in college, 18, 19 years old, making $30,000, and you don't have to do anything but just get up and be an athlete. I think the talent pool may become even bigger.
No, and also to piggyback off you, it stops the one and done.
Yes,
a lot of people go to college for 1 year, then jump. Hey, I'm going to the NBA draft. Blah blah blah. This shit with the endorsements, and they're able to make money off their likeliness and all that stuff. It stops the one and done for a lot of athletes, because now you have some athletes who are going to be like, yeah, I could be here for 2 to 3 years. You know what I mean? And so I just feel like it's like about damn time.
Yeah. I think it's just the right thing to do too. Like, it seems like just greedy for them not to give these athletes their money, especially when they're making money off of these athletes. Football, like college football, is a big thing. And I know that none of us like closely follow it, but there is a group of people that truly enjoy that, specifically in like the southern states is what I'll say. Texas A&M and all that shit. They make a killing off these players. So it's just like, it just seems like the right thing to do, that they should be getting paid at the least for their likeness.
Right. Absolutely. And I think I think we actually were I think all three of us were actually having a phone call one day when this news kind of dropped. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying, like, my biggest concern was my biggest concern at the end of the day is making sure these kids get like financial advisors, or like even like I believe Lau had suggested, like, yo, giving them a class or something, some type of mandatory class if you want to be an athlete at this point, because I think it's so much more beneficial for them to know how to work the money. Because if you know how to work with the money, like you said, hey, this will force some athletes, some students that, like we always saw, oh, he's a one and doneer, and he's one and done, and eventually what happens is that player may end up becoming a bust in the NBA, let's say, right? And it just becomes like a journeyman. And the thing will always be, well, if he had just stayed in college 1 or 2 more years, he probably would have been a better player, a more developed player. Like, you look at Dwayne Wade, he went to college. I think he did all 4 years before he left to go, or he did like 2 or 3. I think he did at least 3 or 4 years in college before he came into the league. And like, he's much more developed player than some of the people he came into class with, even though it's a great class. But nonetheless, right? It's just that in itself. Like, yo, if now the money won't be as big of an issue if like these kids know how to use the money properly. You know how to use the money properly, and then you take that money and say, like, hey, I can make this money work for me while I'm in college, still have fun, still be able to buy whatever I want to buy, have all the fun I want to have without worrying about, oh, like, okay, I'm going to be broke at the end of my senior year. I'm going to be broke at the end of my senior year, and now I got to keep playing to get this bag all over again. And then saying, well, I'm going to just leave and try to go to the league and make a couple $1 million. So I think for the talent pool, I think this is a lot better. I do think it's going to be much more efficient for the NCAA, especially for all their athletes. And on top of it, I think it may lead into like a couple classic things just returning from what we remember of like NCAA when we were coming up. So,
So are you giving a hint at anything in particular?
I mean, well, I think there's a couple things that are being whispered, but I think we'll get a little bit into it in a bit.
Okay. Well, I heard some whispers on Twitter about one of the runners, or one of the situations going on around the Olympics. Sha'Carri,
the Zolympics.
the Sha'Carri Richardson tested positive for marijuana as she was competing for the Olympic trials, and from the sounds of it, it seems like she got suspended for about 30 days, but she will be eligible to run in the Olympics. Guys, how do you feel about the situation?
Well, no, she won't be able to run in the Olympics. They banned her from running.
So is it actually a ban, or will the suspension not matter?
No, so I think like the way it's worked out is like, hey, we're doing this so she doesn't run in the Olympics. So she'll be able to compete in the Olympics when they return, but this 2021 Tokyo Olympics, she's out unless she's there as a supporter. So this is how I see it. Weed is not a steroid. It's not a PED. We all know that from us being MMA fans with the Deere brothers getting caught up in bullshit from the same bullshit. Weed should not be banned in sports and athletics. Actually, weed doesn't help you. It actually hurts you. But for the fact that she was still able to be the fastest fucking woman in the Olympic trials just goes to show the weed has nothing to do with that shit. So I look at it as this. Yes, was she wrong for smoking the marijuana, smoking the dope, all that other shit? Yes, she was wrong for doing that. Do I think that she should have been banned from the Olympics or banned from running at the Olympics? No. I think that's extreme and harsh. You know what I mean? I think that's overboard. If you want to give her a suspension or you want to give her a fine, penalty, whatever, so be it. Let people know, hey, weed is not bad, but for sports, we don't want you taking any form of drugs. But being like she can't fucking run, that's ridiculous. I think that's a little extreme. And that's just my take on it. I know there's going to be some diehard, hardcore people that are going to say, oh, well, she should have followed the rules. She needs to go back to where she came from. There's a rules in place. Don't break them, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just kind of like, those people are dying on that shield for a particular reason why, which we don't have to get into. But us three know why. And I just think that shouts out to the young lady, and I hope she's able to come back and prove to the world that suspension, ban, weed or no weed, she's going to be the fastest woman in the world at one point.
I think when I see the situation, it's sad for her because I think it goes to show some outdated rules. And if you look at the way of the world, like I think a lot of people know and are making money off of marijuana at this point. I also think that if you look and see as to how things are going, you would see that a lot more places are actually legalizing it, medically and recreationally. So I think that a lot of people just see it and just say, like, obviously she did break a rule, but those rules are not good rules. And I think we should question rules if they are outdated. That doesn't make sense. Rules are in place for a reason, but it would make sense if we review our rules because times do change and situations do change. And I just think she just happened to get caught in a situation like that, and it's unfortunate for her. But yeah. I want to see her run again because I'm in the track and field, so I think she's going to be all right. She's still going to be fast.
I think no matter whenever she competes, I think she'll still be I still think she'll be the stiffest of all competition. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think she will probably burn out everybody that she goes against. No pun intended. I do think this whole thing is unfortunate. I don't really sit on a fence on this. I think it's just unfortunate that this whole thing happened. We do understand, like, hey, there are the rules that are in place. She even takes fault for it. And says, like, hey, her mother passed. I think her mother passed right before she did that race, actually. So that was her reasoning for smoking. But, I mean, of course, there's so many other things that could be drawn from that statement, depending on how people's perspective is, right? But, I don't know. I think it's unfortunate that she won't be able to be in the Olympics. Initially, I thought it was just the ban was due to, like, I guess when the Olympics start versus her 30-day suspension. Because, I mean, the reality is other people have been suspended for testing positive. I think the biggest issue is the thing that people are pointing out a lot is that this is before the Olympics have started versus others that have received penalties afterwards. But hopefully, I'm hoping that there's a way that they can look past this because, I mean, I think, as we know, like, granted, from a domestic point of view, like, I think we understand where the laws are how the laws have changed when it comes to this topic. But I think even globally, I think it's just something that it's a rule that is unfortunate this had to happen to her, but I think it is something that needs to be revisited. Just because at the end of the day, like, she's the fastest woman on earth. Not even just, like, in the sport. She's the fastest woman on earth at the end of the day. So, and she's doing this all with weed lungs. Like, I'm serious. Like,
yeah.
Like, it just goes to show you, like, hey, like, this is not like another type of drug. It's not like she tested positive for cocaine or, like, perks or Adderall or some crazy drug or steroids. It's literally like, yo, the only slight that you can give her is that she smokes weed to relieve her stress. And
it's not even I don't even see that as a slight. She was doing it in a state that's, hey, it's legal to smoke dope. If she wanted to smoke a little bit of weed, that's fine. And I understand the rule, but I just think, hey, you can't fucking run at the Olympics. It was overboard. It just kind of comes off as like, hey, they didn't want her to run in the first place. That's what it comes off as.
I get where you're coming from. I think it's just that partial point of, like we said, like, I mean, I think this whole thing has resurfaced a conversation that needs to be had about the use of the rule, this marijuana rule. I do agree there, but I personally don't feel as though it was something that seemed deliberate. Where it's like, at the end of the day, it was something that she tested positive for. It wasn't like something. It's not like someone said like, "Oh, your weed was in her blood." It was like, "Hey, this is some." She takes fault for her actions, and she says she understood the consequences to her actions. Probably didn't realize the severity of it, which unfortunately that happens. But I think that's the biggest thing. I think I would hope at least, but we all know how the cookie can crumble. That if this was anybody else, the same thing would apply. But
hey, man, history has shown.
Yeah.
I mean, for the listeners who agree or disagree, we all understand rules are the rules. And we understand if we do things that bend the rules, there may be consequences of it. So we get that, and we're not saying she should be overlooked for bending the rules. But, I just think that the punishment is it was just severe. And it's just unfortunate for her. And hopefully hopefully she is the spark that changes these rules for the Olympics. No, I'm being for real, because it's like Nigel said earlier, it's an outdated rule. It's a junk rule. You know what I mean? Now,
absolutely,
every athlete and every sport, if you test them every week, your favorite athletes, most known athletes, they're going to be suspended, fined, can't play this, can't do that. As much as the media may not know or they don't want to cover, majority of the athletes at the professional level smoke weed.
The only thing that you can fault her for is just like doing it during that time span, right? Because like in the NFL, they always talk about it where, hey, they would say they would smoke, but they know, hey, during this time of the year, I cannot smoke anything because when they test us, I do not want to show a positive, because a positive test just brings so many more issues. So, but I think at the end of the day, I still do agree. Like, I think they do need to revisit this rule, because it's at the end of the day, it's not like it's a hard drug. It's not like it's something that is spiked or anything like that. It's literally like, hey, it's a plant. And on top of it, as an athlete, I'm quite sure if she's allowed to take it, she can probably get the right sources that will not actually do something else to her. So, yeah, like at the end of the day, that's how I look at that.
Well, so listeners, we have hit a special time of the year, the NBA Finals, and it is not who any of us expected it to be. That's right. Giannis-less Bucks have made it to the finals on the East Coast, and the Suns are on the other side with CP3 and Devin Booker. Listeners, we are here. This is it. What do you think?
Well, listeners, at the time of this recording, Game 1 hasn't started yet. So by the time this episode is released and you guys have heard it, it would be time for Game 2. Because Game 2 is on Thursday, which when we release is on Thursday. So that means Game 1 has already happened for the peewee brains who can't think. So I think the Suns are going to win. I do. I think this is going to easily be a 6 to 7 game series. I don't see this being a sweep. I don't see this being a 6 to 7 games. This is going to probably be a very competitive NBA Finals. And I'm going to try to watch every game. Who do you guys going to go for?
I think I want the Suns to take it just because I want Chris Paul to get one. You know what I mean? And then after that, it's like, all right, like I think the Bucks will actually have a better chance of making it. If they can make it this far this year, like I'm not saying that a few factors didn't come into play, but I mean, if they, were to put some pieces in the right place, they can be, definitely in the playoffs in the latter half of them next year. So, I think the Suns are going to take it. I'm not going to lie. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucks, put up 2 games at the least. You know what I mean? Just to see what's going on.
I'm somewhat similar. I got the Suns in this whole thing. I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I think it will be a competitive series. Definitely after we saw how the Bucks competed against Brooklyn as well as Atlanta. At the end of the day, as we all know, I'm not like the NBA guy as much as my other 2 co-hosts are. So, I mean, I'll just leave it at that. I think the Suns are going to win, though. I do see the Suns probably winning Game 6, getting into Game 6, winning Game 6, and then riding off into the sunset. It will be great for Chris Paul, especially knowing like the hurdles he's had to deal with, even in the playoffs this year, because I do believe he actually had to sit out for one of the games as well. So I think it's going to be interesting. So I'm rooting for the Suns just because of that. So,
Gucci will be rooting for the Bucks right now. He's actually a Bucks fan. Have no idea as to why.
Hold on, Gucci man?
Yes.
How?
No. Wow, can you explain?
All I know is, remember the year that the Raptors won the NBA Finals? But that year, a lot of people picked the Bucks to come out the East to go against the Warriors. Well, Gucci, he was at the Bucks games wearing a Giannis jersey. I remember when Toronto and the Bucks were going head to head. It was Gucci and Drake at courtside talking trash. Yeah, I don't know how he became a Bucks fan. I didn't. It's a mystery. I'm pretty sure there might be some interview out there asking, "Hey Gucci, why Milwaukee?"
Yeah, that's a valid question. I went on his he was actually at one of the games. Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Imagine if they had Gucci and Giannis on like the premiere of like NBA Street, like a new version of it. You know what I mean? If the EA decided to do that.
That would be sick. That would be a sick way of them coming out.
Day one buy?
Huh?
Day one buy?
Hold on.
No, I wouldn't. Not for
wouldn't?
me. No,
I would.
Not for
They
me.
brought NBA Street back. I'm getting that shit day one.
Not for me. I have to see the reviews and stuff. EA is not a good. They're not a good company anymore, man.
Well, I mean, you never know. They just announced recently that they have a big announcement. I saw it trending on Twitter recently. They got a big announcement coming out July 20th where they're bringing back an old gaming franchise, which, I mean, if they get it right, which I don't think they will, I think they have a chance of actually kind of having a resurgence, I'll say.
So what game do you think it is? What you saying that?
Well, the game I hope it is, or the game I think is going to come out.
Let's do both.
Yeah.
All right. So how about we do just the first round of the game we think it is? So because I sent you guys a text message with like some of the selections people were thinking of in terms of old franchises. For me personally, I want Fight Night to come back. Fight Night is probably one of my favorite games of all time. Not even all time, but it's just one of my favorite games in general. So like for me, it's got to be Fight Night.
I think it's gonna be the NCAA games. I think they're going to say like the series is back, and probably have an NCAA coaching editor as well or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
That'd be so trash. A coaching
That's the
game.
That's the game that you want to come back.
Nah, that's the game I think. Did we start? I started off the wrong way, didn't I?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. What game I want it to be?
I mean, well, we might as well just stick here now that you're here.
Okay. Well, I'll give my next one the next time we go around. Lau, what do you?
All right. I'm just gonna make it easy. The game that I want to come back, I agree with Spence. I would like a Fight Night. I think Fight Night, the UFC games, I'm not mad at them, but I think they need time to really fix some holes that they got in them and make them better. In the meantime, you come out with Fight Night. People's been asking for Fight Night. Fight Nights are fun games. I know they're not going to be able to get Floyd Mayweather because he probably isn't going to get the money that he believes he should get to use his likeliness in the game.
Right.
But Fight Night is the game I want. The game I think it's going to be NCAA football.
I'm with you on that. Like, I do think if Fight Night comes out, we aren't going to get certain fighters, but I do think it's going to be dope where you'll get your Keith Thurmans, you'll get your Earl Spences, you'll get your Terrence Crawfords, your Tanks, your Devin Haney's, and then, of course, like, you know how gaming systems are today anyway, where you can update the roster, like, online. So you may end up getting, like, you might end up just getting a more updated fighter, or heck, you might end up getting a quote unquote knockoff fighter, right? Where it might be like Roy June Fever. You get what I'm saying? Some weirdness where it's like, oh, he's Floyd Mayweather in the game, but we just have to call him someone different. So
also they could even do a little crossover thing as like, hey, we're bringing Connor in the game. You know? I mean, he did box. It would help sell the game too. Right?
Yeah. So. It's the truth, and I'm not even gonna hold you. I think when it comes to Fight Night, I do believe for the sport of boxing, I think it would help the sport of boxing tremendously, especially just because then it's nobody cares about fighters or anything like that. Like no one, I hate to say it, but half the world doesn't even know half the country doesn't even know who Deontay Wilder is, and he has a fight coming up in a couple weeks. Yeah. So like having Fight Night with the knockout power that he has, there would be more people just rallying around, or just like, oh, I bet such and such can't beat such and such, because then you play that imaginary game of matchmaking of like with UFC when the like UFC 1 game came out, and you can actually have Anderson Silva fight John Jones, or Anderson Silva fight GSP or something like that, or whoever, right? So it's like, I think that's one of the beauties of if Fight Night comes back. But if I had to give out what I think is going to come, I do think it's going to be NCAA basketball.
Okay.
Especially now that the players get their likeness. So they'll be able to you'll probably end up having just more players. You'll probably have more players that are just like, yo, I'm willing to do this. More college games just willing to be in that NCAA path, especially basketball. I'm not a fan of NBA Live coming back though.
You know what? They tried. They actually tried a couple times to bring that back, and they were not successful. But
NBA Live used to be the game before.
It used to be the game. Yeah,
used to be.
It used to be the game, and then 2K eventually just took off.
Man, the shitty part about the NCAA games coming back is EA could have been putting them out. There was nothing stopping them.
Is that what you think is coming back, Nigel?
Yes, that's what I think. Now, you want to hear what I want?
Yeah. Yeah, because you skipped that before, yeah.
I think a small part of me... Go ahead.
I was going to say, just say what you want, man. Like what dream fantasy booking makes you really happy, you're going to go out to the store and buy it.
I want to see the Def Jam games come back a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. You know, I'll take Lil Baby and beat somebody's ass. Like, it should be funny. Like, I don't know.
That would be so hard.
Who would you choose, Spence? If you had EA right now, who do you want in there?
Oh,
Low Mouse.
Nah, honestly, I want 2013 Chief Keef.
Oh, shit.
Retro Chief Keef.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Retro Chief Keef. I think, that would be hard if they could get Fredo Santana.
They wouldn't do that, though, man. That's, you know.
R.P. Fredo.
R.P. Fredo.
His birthday just passed. He has a July 4th birthday to the listeners.
Yeah, man. Yeah, R.I.P. Fredo, man. R.I.P. Fredo. I know outside of just the EA Sports games, I know Grand Theft Auto, the franchise they've announced, which I think is way too early of an announcement, but hey, they've made an announcement for GTA 6. It'll be coming out in 2025, and that the series is returning to Vice City, which I think Vice City is probably one of the more classic GTA games out of the series, but I think 2025 is just a long time. You could have told me this like 3 years from now.
Well, I know some people are kind of like, oh, you must well keep it at this point. You know, sheep, right? But I look, this is how I see it. I know, Spence, you're not in the video game world and news like that, but there's a game that me and Nigel experienced and we didn't have a good experience with that's had a whole lot of hype called Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about this. Y'all talked about it before. It's a horrible game, right?
Man,
It's a bad game. A lot of glitches. It's just an unfinished product. But this game was hyped for years. Like, hey,
this is gonna be the one.
This is the one. You could do so much shit. Blah blah blah. Dystopian world. Blah whatever the fuck.
Hey, we talked about it in one of the episodes, I think, too.
Did we?
Yeah.
Man, we didn't like it. You know, it's crazy because flops don't usually come out like on that level. Like, you know, games do flop and whatever, but when you see something like this where it has like the machine behind it, this was supposed to be like, hey, this is probably going to be game of the year or in the running. And instead, it's like, hey, we had to take it off the shelves because people were shitting on it so bad. You know what I mean? So, like,
they lost millions of dollars off of this game.
Pretty much. I'll wait. And Rockstar is not going to mess around with developing GTA. They don't play around with their big games. It's probably going to be game of the year in 2025. You might as well not even put out a game in 2025 if it comes out because that's just how they do shit.
Yeah. Yeah, because when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out, and it came out like 3 times already, for that's people still play that shit till today. And that shit came out back in 2013 before the PlayStation 4 came out. We have PlayStation 5 now. So
that's sick.
When Grand Theft Auto 6 come out, I think it's going to be worth the wait because the developers, they took their time to make the game the way it needs to be. I'm excited for it to go back to Vice City. I wonder what like time period they're going to use, if it's going to be like the 80s again, where we're going to see like drug lords and all that shit, or is it going to be like modern time? I don't know. But what I will say is, as a fan of the Grand Theft Auto series, I have no problem waiting for it till 2025. You know what I mean? I mean, there'll be other games from now till then. And then when 2025 comes out, when the podcast is the #1 podcast across all podcasts, we'll tell the listeners to go back to episode 63 and listen to our little bit on Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yeah, by then we'll actually have a sponsorship with them, if anything.
Yeah.
So by then, 2025, can't wait to do that deal with you guys by then. I do think, I honestly, I will say this when it comes to it being in Vice City. I hope it is a modern day. Because I think just the way the world, to be honest with you, if they were able to create it through the lens of what we see through social media, I think it would probably be amazing. Because I think right now, if you just look through the lens of social media, sometimes it looks like people are. A lot of people just seem like they just live in GTA today,
Especially in Florida.
Yeah, like heck, not too far from where I'm at right now. I think at a mall, so a cop. I saw a video where I guess this guy was trying to drive off from a cop, and the cop I guess crashed into him head to head. And the guy tried to back out, but he was over top of something. Then the cop car backs up and slams into the car to try to drive him over the hill so he can't move. So the guy gets out, runs, the cop car starts chasing him. And then next thing you know, you see how he hops a fence and there's someone just cheering him on through the camera. And it's like, yeah, I think he got away still, which is just at the end of the day, it's like we're living in, it's like people don't realize the reality of reality, if that makes sense. I think I just said a couple words too many times. But, yeah, it's just a totally different world. So I think if they were able to make Vice City something similar to what we see today in a modern-day era, I think it would just be wild, for real.
So with Vice City being in Miami, what are the chances that we get Kodak Black to voice a character in the game?
Ooh.
Or Rick Ross.
Slim.
I think Ross is feasible. I
I agree with Spence. Ross is feasible because he seems more level-headed and business savvy. And plus, you notice with the Grand Theft Auto games, the characters that they have voicing are usually like local artists or underground artists to the area. As far as like the big time mainstream artists, they usually just put them on like the radio stations, like the music you can listen to when you're in the car and shit. So if Kodak Black is in the game, he'll be in the game as far as like a song on the radio. I don't see him being like a voice actor or anything like that.
They're probably taking a lot of time to develop this game as far as like story and whatnot. Like it's going to be well worth it.
One thing I hope that the game does, and this will be my last thing before we go on, I hope the game has a living radio, meaning like they have updates to the radios.
Please.
Yeah.
That would be hard.
That's a big one, Lyle.
Yeah.
Like for real.
Nah. I mean, hopefully, at this point, they probably have to, because I'm quite sure there'll be something between like Apple Music with all the streaming services that you have today. I'm quite sure, and we're talking 5 years down the line, so I'm quite sure by then they'll get the streaming politics out the way.
Real quick before we move on. So now you got me thinking. So
that would be hard.
That would be hard.
Which of these streaming services are trying to have the GTA playlist, the official one that's in the game and on their streaming platform, on their service, with possibly exclusive songs at that point?
I'll say Spotify might get it.
It's tough. It's tough between Spotify and Apple at this point. Like it could go either way. I don't know. That'd be hard. I don't know. It'd be hard. I think the only way to answer that question is only to see how it plays out in those couple years from now. Because like we're still, call it what you want, but it's the streaming wars still. We're still stuck in that phase of like streaming wars. So I do know like if they are able to use like Apple Music or something, I'm not gonna hold you. I would love to hear Crimeapple's like album on like as like or some of his tracks on there on like Vice City.
So you listen to it.
Yeah, man. It's a good album. It's actually a really good album. Listeners of the past episode or new listeners, last episode in episode 62, Lau and Nigel were talking about Crimeapple dropping a sequel project. Finally had a chance to listen to it. Never listened to him before. Dude can rap. Like Lau said, it's better just to start from the beginning and just work your way through. And it's, I don't know, it's like he's delivering bars, and then it's like, I think the song is like Ginkgo Baladio or
we
something like that.
know what you're talking about.
You know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Like, to me, I think that might be my favorite song off this album. So, like, he can spit. I was listening to it before I listened to it again before we got on to record today. Like, he can rap. I can say that. He can definitely rap. Like, I'll definitely be checking out more of his projects. Like, he threw me off when he started rapping in Spanish. I was like, oh, he's different than what I thought he was. Like, because at first, you know how it is when you first listen to a new artist. Like, you don't know what to expect at times.
Right.
You got to go back and listen to the first one now, man.
Yeah.
Check out that catalog.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to revisit his catalog at this point, because I definitely got to hear more of him. I think he'll, I don't know where his place would be in terms of music, but I think it's definitely somewhere. Or he definitely deserves to be somewhere. I think it would be great to actually see him with Griselda, to do a Griselda project next. Or Conductor, at least produces beats.
He has a song with Westside Gunn.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, it's called Spanish Jesus.
I keep on telling I want to hear him rap with Silk Money because I think their rapping patterns are similar.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think that'd be too much of the same, though?
Not really, no. I mean, like, it depends on the type of beats they're rapping on and how they decide to go about it. I mean, RLX and Crimeapple rap similarly, but they don't sound bad on the same song together.
Yeah, I think Crimeapple, he has a faster pace of rapping, while RLX is kind of like the standard traditional New York rapper. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it would be interesting to hear them rapping back and forth, especially the way they rap. They say interesting things while they rap. It would be cool.
Yeah.
Actually, saying that, Honestly, you know who I would like to actually hear a feature of him with would be Stove God Cooks.
Oh yeah, I agree with that, Spence. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be an interesting thing because style-wise, beat selection. I actually have like Conductor produce the beat. That would be hard. Conductor produce the beat, and it'd be him. Yeah, it'd be Crimeapple and Stove God Cooks. I think that would be a pretty hard.
Yeah, two thumbs up with that. That's dope.
One of my more favorite projects from like over the music I've listened in the past week. I know G Herbo dropped a project also. He finally released 25, which is I think he's basing off him actually being 25 years old at this point. Personally, I like the album for the most part. I was kind of on the fence a little bit, but it for the most part it was an alright album. Any opinions, Lau or Nigel?
I haven't listened to it just yet, and I'm going to listen to it so I can come back with a review similar like you just did for us just now.
All right, so I fucks with G Herbo. But I'm not a fan of this album like that. It just wasn't concise. Like, he's definitely rapping. He's definitely spitting. He's definitely talking about some real shit. This album faces the same problem that a lot of these current mainstream rap albums face. It's too many fucking songs, where it's coming to the point where some of the songs are just kind of like, I felt like I already heard this earlier in the album.
I can see that.
It's not a bad album. It's not my favorite G Herbo project.
I think that's the thing that had me on the fence for a minute when I first listened to the project. Initially, I was thinking like, yo, I just didn't know how to feel. Eventually, it grew on me. I forget how many tracks the project really is.
It's like 19.
Oh, yeah. Okay, then I can understand that then. Like, at some point, because at some point, I think I was listening to it, like, going through, like, my day-to-day. So I just kind of had it on repeat until, like, whatever stuck. But yeah, like, I mean, I think I can understand you wanting there to be less tracks on there. And I think it kind of goes back to that conversation we had the other day about, like, how when Nigel was talking about, like, the 7 songs, for him, he wouldn't consider it to be, like, it's not in contention for album of the year. And there's never been seen, but, like, it also goes into, like we were saying, like, yo, half the time if these artists were to sit back and remove a bunch of songs that were like, okay, this is good, but this doesn't make the album. Instead of making 19, make it 10 songs. And actually just have concise music. There's nothing wrong with that. I think there are high and low points of that project. I think for me overall, though, it's like, it was a pretty good album. What would you give it in terms of ranking then?
Ooh. Since G Herbo can really rap, and when he raps, he's always talking about stuff, I have to give it a 2 out of 5. I won't be listening to his album again. And you already know he's going to drop a deluxe. That's what they all fucking do. They drop a deluxe, which is going to total the album out to be like 25 songs, 26. And there's going to be more of the same. And
nah, he about to give you 19 more songs, probably.
My God. Wow.
So you like a deluxe, I got 19. You like the first album, you like the album, I got 19 more songs for you, yo.
I got side B in the tuck.
Yeah. And don't wear it. Similar to like K-Slay Sled. And if you don't like it, I got more coming for you. I got another 19 for you.
So it's funny enough you say that, Spence. So I happen to listen to some of those 110 verses on that song. And it doesn't sound all that bad, you know? That being said, I saw it in like highlights here and there. I don't plan on just watching the full 40 or something minutes. I'm good. I'm sorry.
Yo, listen, man, treat it like a Netflix movie or something. Just sit down and you watching like a short Netflix movie or episode. I'm serious. Just sit down. You just watching 110 MCs just sit in front of the camera rapping.
I tell you,
over the same beat for 40 minutes.
I'm gonna do it one day. I'm gonna sit down with Lisa and be like, hey, let's just do this together.
Nah. You already know.
You don't want to suffer alone. That's what it is.
Yeah.
He already know that's the cop out because she's definitely gonna be like, nah. After 5 minutes, All right, Lyle. So how much longer is this? It's gonna be like the walk leash walk video where it's
Jeez. You know, I played her Young Leash and she's like, yo, he's easily one of the worst rappers she's ever heard.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. She's like, she'd rather listen to Lil B. And I'm like,
wow.
yeah, that's ain't no
Shouts
lie.
out to Lil B, man.
Shouts out to the bass god, man. Did you guys check out this new single by Brent Faiyaz? Since we're talking about DC DMV artists, and he has Drake on there, and the beat is produced by Pharrell. It's called "Wasting Time." Did you guys check that shit out? Lisa also likes that record as well.
It's a good song, man. Like Drake's verse on there, obviously is great. I was listening to it and I was just like, I like the sound of it. Brent Faiyaz is a guy who's been keeping popping up on my radar as far as music goes, and I've liked what I've heard from him so far. It seems like when I hear him, whether it be on features or his own music, like I seem to like what he's working towards. I think the song is a good song. Like, you know, I like it. It's a nice little summer anthem, you know, for to listen to, especially in the car or driving somewhere or some shit. So like I fuck with the song personally.
Yeah, same here. Like, I mean, I think I rock with the song. I think it was a great song. Big fan of Brent Faiyaz. I've been checking him out, I think, since I think when he had a sleeper on the Joe Budden podcast. I think it was like no one knows, like 4 or 5 years ago. So like I've been watching, similar to like Nigel said, like he's been on my radar for a while. The music, of course, Brent Faiyaz has always delivered when it comes to tracks, which I can always say, and him having a Drake feature just makes it 10 times better. Drake, of course, does what Drake always does. To me, personally, I was a fan of the Drake verse. I know some people that weren't. Personally, to me, it sounded like Drake was kind of getting back to like his old, I don't want to use Degrassi bag, but it sounded like Drake of like back then.
Like comeback season? Yeah,
like comeback season, like off the hills of like Thank Me Later. You remember when Drake I'll put it like this. You remember those summers, those years where Drake would just put out music on YouTube and like hip hop blogs, and it would just be like him taking someone else's song and flipping it. And like that's when we were getting just a different type of Drake at that time, and just in terms of his rapping. And to me, this is like what it kind of felt like, nostalgia wise, and probably like Nigel said, I didn't think about it, but it does remind me of like you said, like the summertime type of thing. So I don't know. I think this is a great record. I think with it being July, I'm quite curious to see how long it's going to take for it to pick up the steam that's necessary for it to be like the it song. So, but I think it's still in contention. It has right to be in contention. So,
is there a summer anthem right now?
I don't think so.
No, I thought the one song that was going to be a summer anthem was the Twerkulator, the City Girl song.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff on social media like TikTok and Instagram, the girls doing the dance for that song. But after the song like kind of came out, like the fandom kind of fizzled out for it. So.
But the reason for that was because I think they had put the song out like a year prior. Like a year ago, they had put the song out, but it got taken down from like SoundCloud or something. So like it was a song that fans had wanted for so long that by the time, you know how it goes, like, oh, by the time you gave me this, it's a year later. The hype. I've been listening to this little clip on YouTube for like a year now. It's not going to hit. So because the fandom definitely did, like you said, definitely fizzled out like very quickly after that joint dropped. So
yeah, because that song, I thought it was going to be like the City Girls' second hit, but nah. It might. I mean, it'll probably still go hard in the clubs or whatever. But as far as like Billboard hit, it might not get up there that high.
Nah, yeah, I don't think Billboard wise is gonna reach certain. I don't think it if it hasn't already, it's not gonna reach those heights at this point.
Yeah.
But I don't think I have a song of the summer so far. I think there's been music that's been put out, but I don't know. I don't think anybody's like dropped the song that you just know, like, hey, this is it. Like, this is like, I think the pandemic summer, the We Outside summer, the We Outside of 21 summer is just a very weird summer, I think, for people. So I think it's still just the adjusting to being back outside, listening to music, talking to people.
Right. Yes.
Like,
actually being around people and socializing.
Yeah, like I went to a social setting one time and like I left not too long afterwards because I was just like, it was just too much because people didn't have masks on. And it was just like, you know how you just started thinking like, okay, this is starting to get like a crowded area, blah, 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 blah. So like,
my bad, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'm just leaving that blah, 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 because I know I'm quite sure there'll be some YouTube commenters with some opinions.
He doesn't look so smart.
Yeah, man. Anybody listening to this, make sure you comment on the YouTube, follow the Instagram page, which is the Highly Advised Podcast. Twitter, Advise Highly. YouTube, the Highly Advised Podcast. So if you want to hear anything else, but just a quick plug, but my bag.
Well, no, I was just going to say, like, around the time the listeners might be listening to this, we're going to get our first summer movie, which is Black Widow. I know we had mentioned that last week, but it's actually coming out now. And apparently also some movie news on the side of that. The Rock and Amazon apparently made a deal as far as like the next movie for The Rock, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh wow! Did they talk about the finances or no?
From my end, I didn't see anything like how much The Rock or his production company is getting for this movie, but apparently it was just like it went through a bidding war. So I'm assuming it went through the bidding war against the other streaming giants.
Yeah.
And, Jeff Bezos, he pulled one out the hat. So it just goes to show, like, The Rock and his production company is getting bigger, and they're hitting every platform. Because I don't know if you guys know, but, The Rock does have a movie coming out on Netflix called Red Notice. Then he got one coming out next year, Black Adam. This month, he got a movie coming out of Disney, also theaters, called Jungle Cruise. So the motherfucker is working. As per usual, that's nothing. And then there's also rumors saying The Rock might come back to wrestling for a special match. So, like, it's the
SummerSlam, baby.
That would be great, right?
Yeah, that would be amazing.
For us, at least.
I just can't imagine.
Yeah.
Flip out straight up.
Yeah.
Talk about becoming like 8 years old all over again.
Man, that would be crazy. Do we have anything else for the listeners?
Nah. I do want to tell listeners. I do know right now Meek Mill is trending as usual for unreasonable things.
Oh God.
I will say this. I think people I'll say this in terms of what my understanding of what he's trending for. I think people need to grow up and stay out of people's business. But yeah, like, so I think social media. So it just shows. I think this just kind of shows you how social media can be, because they involve something with him and his child. So people blowing something out of proportion.
Man, yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm trying to look for it, but
yeah,
sometimes they just go hard on me because they can go hard on me.
Exactly. So like he's like a punch. He's like I always say. He's like this era's Wale.
And sometimes he brings that shit on himself too, though.
Yeah,
easily.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead. My bad.
Oh I'll ask later.
All right. I don't really have anything else for the listeners. They should follow us though. They should follow me, Relaxing D_Jackson, st.kitch, St. Kitch, Big Cozy 2 Cozy. Follow us at Highly Advised Podcast on YouTube, Highly Advised Podcast on Instagram, Advise Highly on Twitter.
Yes.
Show us some love, leave some comments. Tell us, what else we should be doing. What else we should be doing.
Tell us what we should be doing. Yo, that should just.
I'm gonna leave that one in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say just leave it.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that one in there. All right.
Be do.
Look.
I think that's the title.
Yeah.
What should be do?
Oh man.
Should be due.
Yeah.
How do you say it?
What should we do?
What should be due? I gotta write that shit down.
Oh,
what
Jesus.
should be due?
That's funny. Listeners, you have been highly advised. We will see you next week. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, listeners. Drink your water. You've been highly advised. Shaw.